Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics slash Non-Classics. This is episode number 408 and Doubleshot number 329. Yep, it's Doubleshot. That was going to be a single shot, but I got another trade. Okay. First up, it's a DC trade, not DC, Marvel trade. Deadpool Classic Volume 7 Headcanon. That's seriously the name of this thing. And this book contains Deadpool Wade Wilson's War 1 through 4, Deadpool Pope 1 through 4, Night of the Living Deadpool 1 through 4, and Return of the Living Deadpool. Dwayne Straczynski, who did books like he was the first writer of Birds of Prey Volume 3, and he's also the writer of the previous volume of Cable and a bunch of other books. He does Deadpool Wade Wilson's War. Deadpool Pope is done by Adam Glass and Mike Benson. Some of you might recognize the name Adam Glass as the guy who wrote the Suicide Squad Volume 4 when it was on New 52. Yep. And of course, Night of the Living Deadpool, Return of the Living Deadpool, written by Cullen Bunn. The artwork for Wade Wilson's War is done by Jason Pearson, who also does the inking with the first 3 issues. Lawrence Campbell does the Deadpool Pulp series. With Mike Del Mundo doing the cover art for the Deadpool Pulp series. Ramon Rosales was the artist and colorist for the series Night of the Living Deadpool, with Jay Shaw as the cover artist. The artist and colorist is for Return of the Living Deadpool is Nick Varela, and also same cover artist Jay Shaw. Now each of these books are play on like play on a movie or something else. At least three of these miniseries are actually the names themselves are plays on movies. Like Wade Wilson's War is a play on Wilson's War, a film starring Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts, involving Senator Wilson trying to end the war in Afghanistan in the 1980s, which I think happened in real life. I don't know. He was asked by the CIA to do this. The name itself is a play on that. Return Living Deadpool and Night Living Deadpool, those are plays in the actual films, Night Living Dead and and Return of the Living Dead. Though Night Living Dead was done by the awesome George A. Romero, Return of the Living Dead has nothing to do with him at all. It's simply put the same people who also work with him on Night Living Dead. They did Return of the Living Dead, which was basically a comedy. I have seen Return of the Living Dead. It's actually a pretty good movie. It's actually a really good movie. The sequel was nothing to write home about. I have seen Night Living Dead. Good film to see that and its remake. Both really good films. I have not seen Night Living Dead in 3D. I heard it's really bad. Yep. Okay, as Wade Wilson's War. It's simply Wade Wilson telling a story to one of the senatorial committees about Team X, which this group is consisted of Deadpool himself, Domino, Silver Sable, and Daredevil villain Bullseye. Which in itself sounds like an interesting team and also a really bizarre team. Yeah. Also, half the almost the entire time Domino's scene, she's seen wearing an eye patch over the other eye that's not covered by that black stuff that's covering her other eye. Yeah, she wears an eye patch. It's never explained exactly what happened to the eye. It's just as there. Silver Sable does almost jack squat in the series except appears in flashbacks. Same thing with Bullseye. Appears in flashbacks. Mainly put just Deadpool and Domino. Now it's questionable if this series is canon or not because of all the continuity hiccups with this one. Now normally whenever they do Deadpool series, they generally are canon. This one is questionable canon. Yes. In the case of Deadpool Pope, that's not part of the same 616 universe. That apparently is part of the Marvel Noir universe, except that unlike the other books that took place in the 30s and 40s, this one takes place in the 1950s. Of all things. If you want to know what Deadpool's costume looks like during this series, it's like, okay, why in the world does this costume look like this? Well, it's how the artist designs him. Look at this costume. He's basically kind of like the noir version of Deadpool, of Daredevil. And in this series, we see there's a noir version of Cable. Except that he is never mentioned if apparently in this timeline he's not the son of Cyclops. He does still have the scar on his eye, he still has that. And they do have kind of what looks like a version of, well, they do have a version of J. Edgar Hoover, which makes sense because he was the director of the FBI at that point. Yep. So it makes sense for him to appear in this series. And like noir series, it has a sort of noir-esque style artwork to it, which is how the artist basically depicts it. It's a really dang good series. Now, despite the fact it's a noir series, it's the only one doesn't have the noir on it. Now, when I look at these covers, despite the fact it's credited that Mike Deodato does this artwork, this cover art, it kind of looks like Jay Lee's artwork. Yeah. Those people who know Jay Lee's artwork, this is very similar to that. It could be Jay Lee, but for some reason Marvel credits Mike Deodato. I have no idea why. They just do. Yeah. And it's also very James Bond-esque, this series. There's also a character who you can kind of consider to be this universe's version of the Black Widow. If I can find her. I did see her. As I know, she's kind of basically this universe's version of Black Widow is because of, well, her costume. By looking closely at her costume, she kind of looks like she could be the noir version of Black Widow, but it's never officially confirmed. In the case of the Night Living Deadpool, Return of the Living Deadpool, the only reason why these series exist is because, well, The Walking Dead and, well, the TV show and the comic book are both very popular, and that's the comic is the reason why the comic version of Walking Dead is the reason why most of the comic is black and white, except for Deadpool himself. Return of the Living Dead is actually a follow-up to Night of the Living Dead. It's actually a pretty good series. I did see a review for Comic Front, according to Chris Rantero to the series. He did not like the ending of the series. He thought Colin Bunn dropped the ball at the ending. I thought it was a pretty good ending, for what it was. It's just my honest opinion on it. Yep. But all the series in here are really fun to read because that's the whole point of Deadpool when he has a miniseries. It's just pure fun. Great writers. I do recommend it for people who are Deadpool fans. I guess 9 out of 10. Next up is, I think this is supposed to be my 12th, I think your 12th or 13th DC Rebirth trade I reviewed, which is Titans Volume 1, The Return of Wally West, written by Dan Abnett and artwork by Brett Booth. This book contains Titans Rebirth number 1 and the first 6 issues of Titans Volume 3. Yeah, this kind of takes place right after the events of DC Rebirth, the one shot that came out last year. And this book was released monthly, which makes this the third monthly title I've actually reviewed. For the third of the monthly titles, which I have heard this title is costing $3.99 now, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The good news is the bi-monthly titles are staying the same cover price, though I have heard All-Star Batman is anything. Yeah, though. This is just basically explore, like the one shot is simply put Wally waking up everybody's memories of him because they all kind of had this strange feeling that they kept forgetting somebody, and it's Wally. And I actually like Wally's new costume. It's really cool. It's a dark red, I like berry. Now, yeah, basically this Rebirth one shot takes place right after DC Rebirth and a little bit after Flash Rebirth as well. Though he also later on he makes a guest star appearance in Flash, and he recently made a guest star appearance in Nightwing. Yep, and I will get whenever I get a chance to get my hands on the Lazarus contract trade, I will get my thoughts on that. I know my friend Tiffany did a review of it. I haven't seen it yet, but I really enjoyed Lazarus contract, which kind of basically the ending of this kind of basically plants seeds for that. Oh, and by the way, who does the Titans fight for the first 6 issues? They fight old classic Flash villain Abracadabra, making his first post-Flashpoint appearance ever. I'm thinking though, okay, they threw in almost all the rogues but Abracadabra. Okay. And as far as I know, Abracadabra has not returned to the pages of the Flash. I don't know why. They haven't. I have no idea exactly why. He hasn't yet. But even apparently he basically all this time he was a magician called Hocus Pocus, Mr. Hocus Pocus. Which even I admit, basically, I agree with his perspective. It's a stupid name, and he doesn't know what he was thinking when he came with that name. But also, I should point out though that basically we also see the brand Bruce redesign for Arsenal and Donna Troy. For Donna Troy's attire, it's similar to her classic, her second costume that she had back in the '60s. Except that even though it's the same design, it's just that they switched out the red and gold with black and silver. Roy still has his tattoos from post Flashpoint. He's basically wearing a black hat now. It's spin backwards. Instead of wearing a mask, he's wearing what looks like glasses, and he's got a redesigned costume. Now, recently he did make an appearance in Green Arrow, which I'm happy the fact he's appearing in that book, because in the previous on Green Arrow, not only did the Black Canary not appear in there, but Roy Harper didn't either. Oh, and by the way, in here, Dan Abnett does a better job writing him than Scott frickin' Lobdell did for 5 years. Half the time, he basically wrote him as a whiny brat from the 90s. Yeah, he was kind of whiny written in the Atlas, and here he's perfectly normal. He's exactly how Roy Harper should be. Yep. Also, the lineup itself is very heavily inspired by the original classic era Titans. Basically, in 6 and 7, it's basically the lineup is Nightwing, Arsenal, Donna Troy, Wally West, Garth, Bumblebee, Mal Duncan, and Omen. Yep, 10 people, which is actually really good. Yep, 10 people. And this series picks up, basically you can kind of think of the series Titans, which came out about 2 years ago. You can kind of think of that as the lead into this very series, which is good. And simply put, Brandon does a pretty dang good job drawing these characters. And plus also, we also get a chance to see Linda Park, first time since Flash Rebirth, because, well, it's referenced basically about that. And apparently she does not remember the fact that she was married to Wally West, even though Wally remembers the marriage. Yeah, he remembers being married, and he remembers probably having kids, though the kid is never brought up in here at all. He just remembers their happy life together. And he's very scared of losing her. But, yes, I do know about the fact of the changes they made to him. Like the fact they gave him a pacemaker for some reason. I'm not sure why Dan Abnett thought it was a good idea to do. Also, apparently, he thought it would be a good idea to have Wally and Donna make out. No idea why. Even though that even in the book, basically, even though that there's no hint that Donna is even attracted to Wally. Heck, not even pre-Flashpoint Donna was attracted to Wally. As a matter of fact, it was never mentioned exactly who Donna was attracted to until she met that teacher in the 80s. Yeah, in the Marvel with George Perez era. Oh, and by the way, Wally does not tell her about the fact that she is also a mother. She's been a mother and she's also been married. Which I'm like, couldn't he tell that? Because he clearly remembers pre-Flashpoint universe. He remembers being married. But yeah, he won't tell everybody. He won't tell Donna that she was previously married to somebody else, and the fact that she had a child, or the fact that Roy had a child as well. Let's see. Esmal and Karen, yeah, they were married in pre-Flashpoint as well, though at the time of the Flashpoint reboot, they had divorced. Though they never had actual kids. That is something new. I do appreciate Dan Abnett for basically making Mal and Karen Duncan basically parents. That is really smart of Dan Abnett to do. Yep. Though he's also writing Aquaman. So yeah. The 6 issues here are really, really good. I know my friend Tibia really enjoyed these issues as well. As a matter of fact, he does frequently he does reviews of this series every time an issue of this series comes out. There have been a total of 12 issues released for this volume so far, and an annual, which is good. And when I get a chance to get a job soon, I'm gonna subscribe to this series soon. Maybe one of the several series from DC Comics I'll be subscribing to. I know that Edgar doesn't think that all this is just nostalgia. Kind of it is, but for some people anyways, I didn't jump into DC Comics until 7 years ago. But for me personally, as for basically, it doesn't feel nostalgia. Basically, it feels like I'm rereading, seeing elements of stuff I liked from some of the pre-Flashpoint stuff. And yes, I have read Wally West's time as the Flash. Awesome series. And DC is slowly collecting the series in trade. They recently just did Jeff Johns, and they're starting to collect Mark Waid's run, which I'm thinking, okay, I'm happy the fact that they're collecting those 2 runs. What about the other writers' runs? Yeah, that's a really good question. Oh yeah, they also collected Grant Morrison Grant Morrison and Mark Millar's run for the Flash. But yeah, this is good. I give this a 9.5 out of 10. This is good. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for next episode, which is episode 409. I don't know if it's going to be Doubleshot, but if it's Doubleshot, it's going to be Doubleshot 330. I'm hoping to get my hands on Volume 2 of that one, Made in Manhattan, along with Volume 2 of Nightwing and Batman. I'm also hoping to get my hands on the first volumes for Green Arrow and Deathstroke, because there's still also other trades for DC I really get my hands on, aside from, well, Batman, Nightwing, and Titans. I also want to get my hands on the first trades for Teen Titans, Green Arrow, and Deathstroke. I also want to get my hands on the trades for Detective Comics, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, and I think that's it. Yep, I think that's it. Otherwise, though, I will see you all in my next video, whatever it's going to be. Okay? But until then, I will see you there. Bye.